This episode is all about Microsoft Teams Part 2. If you remember the last episode regarding Microsoft Teams, which was a few weeks ago, we made a claim that Microsoft is hearing from customers that Microsoft Teams is really evolving into this hub for teamwork. And so we talked about a lot of different information that is connected to Office 365, making its way into that single hub for teamwork. So when you're coming together to work with a group of people, Microsoft Teams is perfect because all of these other components that you would leverage as an Office 365 user make its way right into that to that hub for teamwork. And so one of the things we're going to do today is we're going to get into all demonstrations here once we move, I think, past this slide. And we're going to walk through a great scenario that Chris and I have come together and collaborated on. And so we would love for you to think about maybe even doing this within your own respective companies, right? So we're going to go through a scenario where we're launching Microsoft Teams within Contoso, right? The famous Contoso company. And in doing so, we're going to have some champions that we're going to want to come together to collaborate on the launch and the types of things we need to get done. We're also going to want to set up a conduit for the rest of the company so we can engage with them and we can help them understand, how to leverage this new tool that we're pushing out to everybody in the company. So without further ado, let's take a look. And again, we're going to obviously spend the majority of our time within Microsoft Teams. And so I'm going to drop out here and I'm going to go over to Microsoft Teams here. And the first thing you're going to realize is I'm in Microsoft Teams. Now I happen to be in a desktop client, but I want to restate a couple things we mentioned in the first session. Microsoft Teams runs great in a browser, it runs great on a Mac, it runs great on a PC, and it runs great on your mobile devices. And so whatever you have in your arm, under a desk, in your pocket, Microsoft Teams was built for that device. And so you're going to have an amazing experience. So here I am on the desktop client. And the first thing I do is I can see that there's a little notification badge here, right? So if I go in, I can see that I have this unread item, right? And so it's from Grady. And so Chris is playing the role of Grady, by the way. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I'm going to click on this. So let's just say I'm starting my morning. I'm Irvin, right? So Irvin up here. If you click, you'll see that, in fact, I'm Irvin Sayers. And so Irvin is starting his morning. First thing he notices, hey, there's an unread item in chat. I'm going to go and check it out. And so he comes in there and he sees that there's a group chat, right? So one of the things that we've noticed when customers start gravitating towards Microsoft Teams, you'll start seeing a decline in email and an uptick, a significant uptick in the either one-on-one chats or group chats like Grady started with Megan and I here. And so one of the things you'll see is Grady's hard at work. He's saying, hey, I just heard in the hallway or whatever, we're going to be launching Microsoft Teams soon, and your name came up as champions. And so we're going to help make this roll out smooth. And then he also comes back and says, hey, Irvin, he mentions me, right? So you can see the little notification here, which is amazing. It says, hey, we should probably pull in someone from legal. So first and foremost, I want to introduce you to something that is super helpful, right? It's called the Who bot. And so in this command bar up here, I'm going to go up here and remember, he says, hey, can we pull in somebody from legal? Well, maybe he has no idea, or none of us know who in legal could help us. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to say, sure. First of all, I'll say, hey, sure, I'll look for someone. And I'll hit the send button, right? So now I'm just letting him know, hey, I got your message and I'm looking for someone. So I'm going to go up here and I'm going to type in /who. And I'm going to say knows about legal. So this is what we call the Who bot. It's built into to Microsoft Teams. When I click on it, it's going to take me over to the Who bot, and it says, hey, we found 2 people who know about legal in Teams that you're a member of. And so I see Joni Sherman and I see Lee Gu. So I'm going to click on Joni. And so what's super nice about this experience is it pulls up Joni's contact card. I can see that she's a paralegal, so she's qualified. I can see her phone number, but also I want to see what team who she works for and the rest of the people around her. So I'll click on the little org chart, and notice I get to see the full org chart all the way up to the president of the company, right? So it just makes, you can see how Teams is really becoming that end all be all for being able to navigate, find experts, so that you can pull into these initiatives as you're working to get things done with others in your company. So now I'll go back to this group chat, and I'll say, hey, I think I found someone, and I'll say, hey, at Urban or Grady, and I'll mention him just so he knows. I'm going to pull in Joni. And so what I'm going to do up here is, you'll notice this is a group chat, right? One of the things that we might want to do is, I'm going to go and rename this real quick, and I'm going to name this Teams Launch. That way it has more context, so that when it shows up over here, I actually see the topic that we've been discussing as a group of people. And then I want to add someone. Now watch what happens here. As soon as I click to add someone, now, you know, Chris is having a little fun. He's saying, hey, let's do this. He's got a high five. Somebody may have put a silly Giphy, right, of a baby dancing or something. Now we're pulling in someone from legal, right? They tend to not like to have too much fun within an organization. So what I love about Teams is the ability for me to go in, and this is fairly new, and I can go in and say, hey, do I really want Joni to see all of us, you know, having fun while we're getting a lot of work done? If I want to, I can say just include the last X number of days, include all chat history. I need her to see the entire context of what we've been talking about. Or I can say, hey, don't include any chat history. Make it appear to Joni as we're all coming together for the first time. So what that allows you to do is control how much of this group chat that took place before we invited her. You know, she'll be limited to the content that she sees based on our options that we select here, right? So it's super cool capabilities there. Now, let's say a few weeks pass, and then, you know, the leadership team gets together and they confirm that the formal launch of Teams is coming to Contoso, right? So at this point, you know, we've had a group chat where we've been able to converse back and forth. We pulled in Joni, all the things that we'd like to do, just to kind of get our ducks in a row. But now that we know this is a formal initiative, we're all going to be working together to accomplish this launch together, then we need to go in and formalize this. And when we think about formalizing a group of people coming together to get something done, that is an amazing opportunity for you to leverage Teams. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into to Teams here, and I'm going to create a new team. And so I want to show you how quickly we can do that. So I'm going to click on Join or Create a Team, and I'm going to create a new team. And this new team is going to be called Teams Champions. And I can put a description if I want, right? And so now I have the option of saying, hey, do I want this to be a private or public team? So I'm going to name it, I'm going to leave it as private. If I wanted people across the company to discover this, right, and see the content within it, I can, of course, select public here, right? But I'm going to leave it as private and click Next. I can also, some other honorable mentions here, I can also now start creating, using other teams as a template for creating teams. So this is pretty interesting. So I would encourage you to play around with this as well. And if you already, this is another worth mentioning capability, if you've already created a group, meaning you've gone in and let's say that you put the first thing you did in working with a group of people is you created a planner. Well, that planner that you created, it starts by creating this Office 365 group. So you can reuse that group membership by clicking, hey, create a team from an existing Office 365 group. And so that's also another option. So it kind of prevents you from reinventing the same group of people to work in a team now. You can just reuse that same group of people. So I'm just going to pick on Next here, right? And the thing you'll see is I now have this team that's been created. You can see it behind the background here. And I'm going to start adding members. So the first person I'm going to add is Grady, because Grady is kind of leading this with me, right? And so I'll add Grady. And one of the things that you'll notice is I want to make him an owner, right? Because owners have more privileges than obviously members. And now I'm going to go in and I'm going to add Joni, Joni S. And I'm going to leave her as just a member. And I will also invite Megan. And I'm going to invite Diego. Diego will have a guest appearance later on his mobile device, just to get you thinking about that. Come on, if I could type. Diego. And let's add Diego there. So now we've got 3 members. I'm going to be an owner because I created it, as well as Grady is going to be an owner. Okay, and the last thing I want to do before I hand it over to Chris is I want to customize a little bit. So one of the things I can do is I can click on Teams Champions here, and you'll notice there's a little edit the icon button here. So I'm going to click on the edit button. Let's see here. It says we're still setting up your team, so it's assigning all the permissioning. Give it a second here. So we may come back to this in a minute, or I might hand it over. I'm going to give it one more shot here. If I go back to Teams and go to the general channel. Now let me see one more time, and okay, let's let it continue doing that. All right, Chris, I'm going to do this behind the scenes. Basically, I have an image that I will place that. You'll see it rear its head as we go through the demo later on, but it's still setting up this team for me. So I'm going to hand it over to Chris. Now, remember, I made Grady, right, an owner. So what I want to do is hand it over to Grady and show you his experience, and as he's going to walk through some of the more common things that people do when they come together in teams to get things done as an owner of that new team that I created. So over to you, Grady / Chris Lahamadou.
Sounds good. Thank you, Brent / Irvin. So we pivot back over to my desktop experience. Much like Irvin, I am in the desktop client as well. I landed up in here, and you can see there's the chat window, the group chat that I created. Someone on the Q&A, and I would urge you to use the Q&A if you have questions. We're policing that on the side here. They asked, hey, if someone in a multi-party chat renames the chat to something that provides some context, does everybody see it? And as you can see here, the answer is yes, right? He renamed this to Teams Launch, and now everybody's on the same page, and we all see the same topic, so we can know how to stay together. I can see that Grady is going to bring in someone from legal, and I can use a social gesture like a like to pull someone in and let him know that I'm happy with what he did. So if I pivot over in my client to Teams here, you can see because I was added to the team, it automatically shows up in my UI here. A couple of things about this. The teams by default come with a general channel, right? Channels are a way for you to create context around the various productivity aspects of a Microsoft team. And so the general channel comes with a couple of core capabilities. It comes with a conversations element where we can have conversations. There's an area to store files, and there's also a wiki if you wanted to kind of build out some dynamic information. So let's talk about that. Let's say, for example, as the new owner of the team, I want to welcome in all new and future people. The conversations tab, if you will, and these are tabs across the top here, is sort of the bulletin board for the team. It's the place where general broad announcements can be made to everyone within the group. So I can say, we will use this team to help with our rollout of Microsoft Teams. And maybe I want to provide some additional context here. If I click on the little formatting thing, I can actually provide a subject, right? So that this is front and center for everyone, right? So welcome Microsoft. Wow, that's terrible. Soft Teams. That's even more terrible. Champions. So people will know kind of what's here. I can provide some priority as well too. So people know it's important to help, draw attention. As you can see, I can add in other elements here. I can attach files or content. I can provide some emoji, if you will, and you saw the stickers and jiffies and that sort of a thing. So I can, click on this right here and provide this update right here in line. I also have the ability to add files or file content, right? So maybe for the general channel, we want to have a place, and I can see Irvin's already jumping in, can't wait to help. Maybe we want to provide some basic information for everybody when they come to the team to be able to engage. Teams is part of the Office 365 ecosystem, right? So there's a lot of other parts of Office 365 that are integrated in, and it make it very easy for you to use. One of the things that I want to do for my new team is I want to upload a document that I've been working on that's like a quick start guide for Microsoft Teams. And it's a way for me to go ahead and add in. You'll see there's a files area where people can upload and add file content into the environment. So if I click on the pay-per-click icon, you can see I can upload files, and I have some choices. I could, look for recently accessed files, or if I was working in another team, let's say, or if I wanted to upload a file that I've been storing on my computer. But I'm storing all my files in OneDrive, that cloud storage part of the Office 365 service where I, as an individual, store my content and share and can collaborate with others. But I want to now make this part of the overall team's use for moving forward in the team. So if I click on OneDrive here, this now just reaches into my OneDrive, and I can grab this Getting Started guide with Microsoft Teams and bring this in. And when I do this, what it's going to do is it's going to take and bring this Quick Start Guide document over into the Microsoft Teams. So now that everybody that is here, member and owner, now has access to this content. And you see, if I move over to the Files tab here, you'll see we have this, that it just brought it over from my OneDrive for Business, totally integrated and seamless. I didn't have to, go through a bunch of, machinations to do that. One of the things that's also really important when it comes to customizing the tabs for a team is you want to provide targeted experiences. You want to provide quick access to information. You want to provide it in context with what the channel's about. So one of the things that I would like to do, obviously we're going to generate a lot of files here, but I want this Getting Started guide to be front and center. I want when someone joins the team, when we bring on a new champion and they come to the general channel, I want them to see this file right away. So I can actually add that file in here and as a tab. So if I click on plus, you can see there's a whole bunch of different types of tabs that I can add in, tabs that are part of Office 365 and even ones that point to external services. You see, if I click on Microsoft Word here, I can now select this Word document, and I could say, start here, right, as the title of the tab. And I can actually also, when I create new tabs, choose to post about this activity in the Teams conversation channel or conversation tab to let people know that it's happening or not. In this case, I'm going to create a tab and people will just see the tab. I don't need to tell them about it necessarily. So I'm going to go ahead and do this. So by doing this now, I've created a tab that takes me right to this Word document, and it's here right in context. I don't have to go anywhere. As I come into the channel, I can just engage with this document and it makes sense right here. So very simple and easy to do. We also, as you saw, there's a wiki that gets created. So if I wanted to say in this particular context, maybe what we want to build is a place where we can compile a list of FAQ documents, right? We're going to, as we're rolling out and launching Teams and engaging with our employees in Contoso, what questions are they asking? How do we help people get to the right information more quickly? And maybe we want to take and compile this information into FAQ and then later on build a bot out of it so that people can have our employees within Contoso can get tailored information specific to our environment via an FAQ that we're building via a wiki here. So very simple and easy to do. So I talked about the fact that channels provide productivity context. They provide a way for me to create areas of focus within a team. And there's maybe I want to go ahead and create some additional channels, and I'll go ahead and create a few just to do this. Maybe we want to have a channel that's focused on the launch, let's say, and go ahead and do that. And you'll see when I create this, I can create a channel. I can also give it a description if I like, and I could also choose to favorite this channel for the whole team. This is one of the reasons why we're coming together, so I'm going to do that. I'm going to explain later why that's important. So this is going ahead and creating a channel. I'm also going to create a few more real quick here. We're going to create a channel for team owners. Right, so a place for team owners to talk about things. I'm going to create a channel for training information, right? So as part of this, we want to build out and create some training information for our launch of Microsoft Teams. Maybe I want to create another channel for updates to Microsoft Teams. So we have a place where our champions and other members of the team here can see what updates are coming. And then lastly, we want to let leadership know about how things are going, right? So we want to create a channel here called SLT for Senior Leadership Team, right? So I've created a couple of channels in here, and it provides, again, for the team's champions, some context. I'm going to go ahead and collapse some of these down. to clean up the UI a little bit. And so maybe what I want to do now is I want to customize these individual channels to provide, like I said, that targeted productivity experience. So for this launch event, you can see we have a conversation area where we want to talk about some different things. But what I want to do actually is we want to start planning our launch. We want to start working on activities. So again, I can use this plus to create a tab up here that allows us to create that targeted experience of activities. And in this particular case, I want to use Planner, which is our platform for Office 365 work management. And it's a way for us to build out a work management experience where I can create boards or categories of tasks that we can all as a team create and work on and build out collaboratively, right? So I can say this is going to be our launch plan. I am going to post in the channel about this so people can see that it's there. And then what happens here, now we're integrating other parts of Office 365. So here's Planner integration. Right here in Context in Teams. I don't have to go anywhere. I don't have to go to some other app. I'm in Context, and in my particular team, I'm looking at the plan related to the launch channel. So again, very, very powerful, right? I don't have to go anywhere. Maybe, for example, what I want to do is I want to create a new task, and we're going to create one called Create Launch Proposal. All right, we want to get going on this. I can go ahead and set a quick due date, and maybe that'll be tomorrow. And I want to assign this, and I want to pick someone, and we're going to have Irvin get on this. So you can see I could add multiple people, and I can go ahead and add the task. And then you can see we can create different categories or buckets. So these are sort of general to-dos, but maybe what I want to do is I want to create a bucket for, launch day events, let's say. Or launch day tasks, right? That kind of a thing. So when we get closer to our big launch, I can craft up a series of tasks. So I can create these vertical containers or buckets to help organize my tasks. And then within each particular task, you can see I can create and keep track of progress information. I can keep track of start and due date information, descriptions. If this particular task has some sub items, I can add those in here as a checklist, or if I want to attach files, or even have some comments in here. It's a very great way for you to have interactive, collaborative work management or task management for the whole team and broad. So really a great way to engage here. Let's say, for example, that what I wanted to do here now is go into the team owners group, and I wanted to provide some additional context for the team owners. Maybe I wanted to provide some reference information to them. So our champions, they can jump in and get at the latest bit of Teams documentation. So if I come in here just to grab some, some documentation here, I can go through and again provide that targeted productivity experience here and create a new tab that's pointing to a website. So here you can say I want to say that this is Teams Docs. And I can go ahead and paste my URL here. And it's a way for me to, again, provide reference information for our Teams owners right here in Context. So right here, I created a tab that takes me out to the documentation for Microsoft Teams. So they can go always current to the documentation provided by Microsoft on the documentation for Microsoft Teams itself, including an overview of teams and channels. And so there's some run through of this, some relative guidance and how you work with channels. So again, keeping it in context, making it very simple and easy for me to use. Another way that I might want to provide some context here would be for training, right? We're going to build out training assets. They could be in the form of documents that we might store in files. But for a lot of organizations, they are leveraging the video information for doing training for their employees for various different topics. And Office 365 includes a capability there as well, too. So we've actually created a channel in Microsoft Stream, which is part of Office 365, that allows me to link off to various different training resources. I could say these are training videos, and I could go here and I could grab in and post the name of the channel and save this out. And so now I've integrated Microsoft Stream directly into this training channel. You can see we have a Teams 101 video right here and ready to go. So again, I'm integrating in the context of training the video information that's really useful for the team owners. Maybe we're having people reviewing training content before it goes out and mass to the public, so we can work on and curate training here and then make it more publicly available. Maybe for this updates channel here, again, we want to help people stay on top of what's happening within Teams. So I could come in here and go into another website here, and I can, for our Teams champions and our whoops, not Word. I can create another tab here for a website. In this particular case, we could say that this is a link to the public roadmap, right? So Microsoft makes available a public roadmap that lets you stay connected with what's happening within Microsoft Teams. So here I can go right into the public roadmap and I can see what's the latest and greatest across Microsoft Teams. You can see I'm actually already filtered in. So when I come to this tab, I can see, what features are under development, what features are rolling out. So we can look at what's coming, and we can also see what's rolling out. So again, we can build those training resource materials. We can talk about how we want to help our end users consume the service and make it very easy for them to do. And then lastly, under the SLT, maybe what we want to do is we want to provide some updates of how Office 365 consumption is going, right? We want to let them know, hey, what's happening within Office 365? How are things going as we're deploying Teams and other workloads within the system? We can leverage Power BI integration within Microsoft Teams to be able to surface that information. So I can say I want to specify a particular report, and I say I want to pull in this adoption preview, and I can say that this is about O365 usage. And I can say post this right into the channel, and it makes it very easy for me to bring in business intelligence right into Teams, right? So all of these different experiences, websites and business intelligence and video content and documentation, all right here and available to me in context through the use of channels and available to me directly right into the tabs, right? So very simple and easy to use, in terms of building that content out. So we talked about tabs for customizing channels and a couple of different ways that you could do that. There's another way to sort of bring in or integrate external experience with Microsoft Teams, and that's through the use of connectors, right? So connectors are a way to take activities or actions that are happening outside of Microsoft Teams and to bring them in context with what's happening in my conversation stream. Right. So one example of that would be, we have, Contoso's, of course, leveraging Yammer, right? That tool for our outer loop, that broad company-wide conversation, et cetera. But what the launch team would like to do is to say, okay, we've created this Teams 101 group out on Yammer for the company to ask questions about Teams and engage in a social way. And I'd like to have that show up here in context with what's happening right within the launch team, so they can see what people are talking about and figure out how they want to react to it. So in this particular case, if I click on the ellipsis to the right of a channel, you can see I can establish different connectors. And we have connectors to a wide variety of different types of data sources. In this particular case, I can just do a quick search, let's say for Yammer, because I want to bring in Yammer across the platform, and I'm going to add a connector into Yammer. And I have some options here for what I want to do, right? So I can say, first of all, I'm prompted to say, hey, yes, I want to go ahead and add this into the team, your typical security thing. And I'm going to go ahead and log in here to authenticate to make sure that show me the groups that I have access to, et cetera. So this is Grady A at M365 X349 036.microsoft.com. And sorry about this. So we're going to go ahead and sign in here. This normally would not happen in my domain joined device. But I can go ahead and log in here. And now once I have the connector established, I can specify the group or groups that I want to follow, right? So in this particular case, I can specify the Teams 101 group. And maybe I want to look for new conversations, or I want to look for all messages that they come in, or maybe I want to follow a specific user, or I want to look for specific keywords, and then I can choose to set this up either as a digest, or I can deliver individual messages posts arrive. So I can stay kind of more directly in touch. So by building this connector now in this group, as people create new conversations in the Teams 101 group in Yammer, they'll show up as elements in the conversations thread here within Microsoft Teams. So again, it's another example of I don't have to go someplace else. I'm building all of my integrated experiences directly into Teams, and now my group can be very effective and productive right here from within the user experience. Another instance where this could be potentially very useful is to say, hey, it would be great if I was able to better keep tabs of all of the updates that are happening in Office 365, right? So again, I could take and leverage another connector to bring in what's happening on outside of Office, outside of this particular team. In this case, I'm going to go into connectors, and I want to build a connector to an RSS feed, right? I know that the Microsoft Teams team manages a blog for all of the things that are coming within Teams, and I could say that I want to call this the Teams blog, or blog, as it were, and I can specify the address for the RSS feed, and then I could specify the update frequency, right? We'll say every hour we want to check because there's a lot of updates and a lot of new things coming within Microsoft Teams. So again, much in the same way, I have something that's happening outside of Office 365, and it's landing directly here into my conversation stream in Teams, right? Very simple and easy to use. And if you look at the list of connectors here, there's a whole bunch of different options here. One that tends to be the number that are fairly popular here. In my particular scenario, I brought some ones in, but you could leverage things like Visual Studio Team Services or Jira or others for software development. If you've got a group that's handling PR, you could bring in social media via Twitter, or maybe build out a Bing News connector where every time my company is mentioned, I want that news element to land in here. And then we can talk about it as a team and take actions, or even potentially interact with that directly. So it's very simple and easy to do. So I've created a number of different channels here. And you can see, I talked about the fact that when I created the launch channel, I set that up as a favorite for everybody on the team. Favoriting channels is a way for you to tune the activity stream, right? And also to tune what I see in the UI. So favoriting, I can favorite specific teams. You can see I'm a member of a number of different teams, and I've chosen to have some of them favorited up at the top here. Although I'm a member of the Human Resources team, I'm not quite as engaged there, so I want I don't want that to necessarily be top of mind for me, so I can choose to favorite some so that they're on the ready for me here, but keep others down below. Similarly with channels, I can do the same thing. So maybe, for example, I'm not integrating with the SLT as much. That's something that Irvin's doing, so I can basically move these out of the way, if you will. And similarly, I'm maybe not focused on training as much. Now, I can still have those information showing up in my activity feed, though, and that manifests itself through the ability to do following, right? So I can follow a particular channel, and this influences what shows up in my activity feed, right? So all this launch activity, I want to make sure I follow that, and so that information will be top of mind and will land in my activity feed, letting me know that, hey, this is important information that's showing up. It'll let me see when there's new, text or, new notifications, et cetera, from that perspective. So it's a great way for me to stay on top of what's happening, within the platform itself too. So within this, I also, you can see, I can go back to my, see, Irvin mentioned me here. You can see we have toast notifications. I see that Irvin here has said, hey, I'm going to get that to launch proposal done ASAP. I want to show him kind of what that looks like. You can see he mentioned me, so I had a notification. It let me know that there was something I needed to get into. A couple of other things that I want to point out real quick before I turn it back over to Irvin. You can see that I have presence information here, so I can see that he's available. If I wanted to, have a chat with him, I could certainly do that. If I click on his name, you can see I could also elevate this to an audio call. So if you look on the left-hand side here, you can see that we have calling built into Teams, so you can have audio calls or video calls built right in. I could also schedule a meeting with him if I wanted to. So there's not only an activity feed and chats and access to all my teams and all their information, but I also have access to my calendar as well as a calling infrastructure here, which we're going to have a deeper dive into in a subsequent meeting. So it allows me to kind of plug in and interact with all the people across my organization in a broad way. And if I was in my team, for example, and we had some kind of a launch-related thing, I have this ability to spin up a Meet Now. So this will be a way for me to get everybody on the team on the same page very quickly. So I can click Meet Now, and it would basically reach out to everyone on the team and all their endpoints, PC, Mac, or mobile, and allow everybody to come together in a voice and video call and talk about the launch or something that's a blocker, et cetera. So I think at this point I want to turn this back over to Irvin. He can go in and start building out this launch proposal, and we can be very successful with the team. So with that, Irvin, back to you.
Hey, thanks, Grady, aka Chris. Great job. Just a couple of comments about the voice capabilities and calling capabilities. So very similar to Skype for Business. Today we offer calling numbers for a little over, I think it's 40 plus countries and almost a little shy of 500 cities. So if you're a company that today uses Skype for Business for calling and conferencing, it's very possible that in the near term you'll be transitioning that over to Teams down the road. And so one of the things that we've announced is all the capabilities that you currently have available for Skype for Business from a call-in and conferencing capability will be available ultimately in Microsoft Teams. And so the idea there is, as we're looking at this hub for teamwork, why would you have to bounce out to go to another tool? Why not just do all of those activities right there within the Teams UI? So I'm back and I'm logged in as Irvin, right? And one of the things I noticed is I got some things happening here. And so I can see that there's some things that have happened with regards to Grady reaching out to me, right? And so if I go back into the Teams UI, you'll notice in the General tab, if I go down here into Launch, remember, there's this launch plan using Planner that Grady integrated into the as a tab within this channel, right? So again, the idea is for us to all stay updated on exactly who's doing what to make sure we hit the launch date as expected by our leadership team. And so you can see that I went in and I looked at the launch plan here, and I was able to come back and just let Grady know that I'm working on it, right? But if I wanted to, again, I just click on the launch plan and I get to see my conversation over here, as well as I get to go into that plan and I can view it by different buckets, progress, due date, etc. If I wanted to, I can click on that, the actual launch plan, and I can go in here and say, working on it now, pulling in Diego. And so I'll send that, okay? And so now that I have that done, I'm going to go back over here to the conversations, and I'm like, look, as part of this initiative, I need to actually create a launch plan, right? So I'm going to go over here to Files, and what's important here is Microsoft Teams uses 2 document repositories, possibly, for containing any document you share. One of them, if you're in a chat, whether it's a one-on-one chat or a group chat, it's going to use your own OneDrive because there's not a formal team created. And so if I'm doing a one-on-one chat with you and I share a file with you, that file is going to be in my OneDrive, and we automatically provision the right permissioning so that you can go in and interact and collaborate on that file with me. In this scenario, since we're in a formal team, all the files that we collaborate within any channel is going to be in SharePoint Online, which comes with all of the great goodness that comes with SharePoint Online, like version control and the ability to to go to the recycle bin if someone inadvertently deletes something by mistake. You have all the DLP and advanced threat protection and all the auto classification and labeling that comes with SharePoint. So all the greatness, and that's kind of the magical part of Teams, is we leverage all of the back-end stuff that's happening in Office 365. So in this scenario, what I want to show you is I'm going to start creating a proposal. Now, before Microsoft Teams, I would have to bounce out and I would have to go into either Word Online or Word on my PC or Mac or whatever to create this. But now that I'm in Teams, you'll see that we've integrated some goodness into the raw Teams environment. So here I am in the launch channel. I'm going to go create a new file, and I'm going to create a new Word document. So this is going to be the launch proposal. And I'll type in launch proposal. And for some reason, we all have a horrible time typing these days. And so watch what happens. I don't have to drop out to go open up Word to do this. I don't have to go out to the browser and log into Office 365, go to the Word Online experience. I stay right in context of Microsoft Teams, that single pane of glass, that hub for teamwork, and I'm able to go in and start getting my work done. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to say launch proposal. And if you haven't used the online experience with the Office apps, It's pretty amazing these days. So there's my title. I'm going to come down here and put summary. And I'm going to make that heading 1. And then I'll come down and just put some Latin characters, just a little trick, rand equals rand, and I'll put 4. So that just inserts 4 random paragraphs, okay? So what's amazing about this, if you think of all the wiring up we've done behind the scenes, this launch proposal has been created. It's already saved in the SharePoint Online document library, okay? If I come back over here, you'll see that it's already sitting here under files in this channel. But that file is, again, stored in SharePoint Online. So as I open it up and I go into edit it, I can do all of my rich editing right here, right? So what I'm going to do here is, remember I told what am I thinking of, Grady, that I would pull in Diego, right? So I'm going to come in here and say, let me go to full screen here so you can see what I'm doing. I'm going to go in here and say, hey, at Diego. At Diego, can you jump in here? Right, so I'm just basically, I'm working on the document. I'm in Teams, so I have the ability to come and have a whole conversation around this. I mention him, right, Diego, and say, hey, I need you to jump into this. I can see that Diego's away, right? So I'm just gonna, that's the great thing about persistent chat. And then I'm gonna just sit here and continue editing this document, right? So what I want to do now is I'm going to show you what happens on Diego's side. Now remember, earlier I told you that Diego actually is a mobile user, right? And so I'm going to come in here and I'm just going to shrink this down a bit. So give me a moment. This takes just a tiny bit of wiring up. So I've got Diego on the left still in Teams in the browser, right? And now I've got my Android device, which I'm going to blow up a little bit just so you can see it well. And I'm going to anchor that over here. So now I got both of them. So if I'm Diego on the right, okay, I'm just on my mobile. I could be at the airport and I'm able to check in. I see that I've got some things happening. If I go to activity, I can see that Urban reached out and said, hey, Diego, can you jump in to this document? Now, look what happens. It makes it super easy for me to now reach out and start interacting with that document. So I'm going to click on Launch Proposal. And one of the things that you may or may not know is, in the older days, not so long ago, notice I get a little pop-up that says Diego is now editing the document with you. So what we've done now is we've enabled real-time co-authoring across basically every medium you can imagine. So if I have 2 people in a browser, if I have one on a PC and one in a browser, if I have somebody on a phone like this, right? So if you'll notice, I'm going to start typing on my phone, okay? And I want you to notice the cursor over here that Urban is looking at, okay? So I'm going to come in and say, hello, comma, this is my input. Now, so I use the voice transcription, right, on my mobile device to help me put that into the Word document on my mobile device, a native client delivered by Microsoft. Notice the real-time editing now flying across the screen for everybody else involved. So Irvin has no idea that Diego is limited to his mobile device. So we've enabled real-time co-authoring across the board. And in pretty much any scenario, coming soon, I might add, to Macs as well. So we've announced that that's coming right around the corner. So there will be no scenario, basically, where you won't be able to have this real-time co-authoring experience. And so again, if I'm if I am on the mobile side, and Irvin comes in here and he starts typing, right, I get to see all of those changes as well. And so the real-time co-authoring is super exciting for a lot of us, right? Because it really shows how you can collaborate and co-author with people no matter what device you happen to be on. So I'm going to go ahead and close out of this document here and save my changes. as Diego. And so what Diego might do now is come back and say, done. And let's make that done. And then the other thing he'll do is he'll put a nice Giphy and he'll say, let's search for dancing. And so let's put something that is, I love this one, add to message, and boom, right? So I'll send that. So who says, again, you can't have fun while you're getting a lot of work done? As Irvin, I'm going to close this down and go back to our conversations here. And you'll see there's Diego's comments and his lovely Giphy that he sent to me, right? So super great capabilities across both mobile. Again, if I had a conference call, I can join that from my mobile device. I can see content, all the things that you would expect to do from your mobile using Microsoft Teams. Okay, so now I want to full screen again, and I'm going to come over here and let's full screen Microsoft Teams here so we can continue rolling. One of the things that I want to show off is if I go to the browser, I've done a couple things. One is, if you're not familiar with Microsoft Forms, it basically is a really intuitive way for anybody in the company within Office 365 to go in and create quizzes or new surveys for anybody inside the organization or outside of the organization. And so I've created this collaboration survey, okay? And what I want to do is make sure that I'm able to gather feedback from people in a structured way, so that when people are asking questions, or maybe I want to make sure we understand who to target for our launch or how much expertise is out there. Maybe we want to solicit people to help us with the launch, find other champions. And so one of the things that I can do is not only do I have the questions here and I can build this survey, but I also have all the responses here as well, right? So you can see I have no responses. And if I come over here, I actually have branching that I can enable within the forms, right? So I basically come in here and say, hey, if someone says they have a lot of experience using Microsoft Teams, then I want to go down to the next question, which is, hey, would you be willing to help? If they answer no, I don't have any experience, then I'm gonna say, don't worry about asking if you'd like to be a champion, because we don't really need you if you don't have any expertise in the area, right? And so this is Microsoft Forms, super easy way, very intuitive. You have branching, all those things. But what I want to show you is, if I come in here and I click on the URL and I go back to Teams, one of the things I might want to do is, I'm going to go into Yammer now. And so remember, we created this Teams 101 group. And so I'm going to come in and say, hey, community, please complete this survey. And I'm going to paste it in. And let's see, and let's post it. Okay, so this is a survey that they get to fill out while they're within Yammer. So again, Yammer is used as primarily that outer loop, right? Experience. And so if I go back here and I look at the actual, I want to look at the actual forms preview. Let's get the URL to this. So if I get the URL, copy this, one of the things that I can do is I can come over here to Teams and I can go into the launch, and I can say, you know what, I want to add a new tab, and I'm going to make this a form. And so forms will pop up, and I'll say, don't worry about posting to it. Add an existing form, and what you should see is there's that collaboration survey, collect responses, save. And so now what I can do, wouldn't it make sense that as people are using the outer loop Yammer to go in and interact with this, I would want to come in and look at all of the different survey results, right? And so I can come in here, and I think I inserted it the wrong way. If I do that one more time, I think I picked the wrong option here. So if I come in and say from an existing form, and I want to show results, that's what I want. And so now I can either go fill out the form, or I have the I guess I didn't hit enter. Dang it. Let me try one more time here, folks. So I'm going to remove this one because I don't want that. Remove. And I'm going to hit the plus button one more time and click on forms and go down to existing forms. And I'm going to say, I want to show the results. Save. Okay, so now this is what I intended to show you the whole time is wouldn't it be great if at any time when somebody goes and fills out this form, we don't have to go to Yammer, we don't have to go to Office 365 to see the results. All the results are going to come right into our launch channel within the Teams Champions tab. So as we're collecting information, targeted information from people, then we get to go and have that pulled right into our channel where it makes perfect sense. A couple other things. I know we're getting close on time. I want to run through a couple other things that I think are extremely important. So it's hardly ever happens where I don't get in front of customers and talk to them about Microsoft Teams where they don't turn around at some point. Somebody in the audience will say, hey, you know, today I kind of live in email. So how do you manage email versus Teams? So one of the things that I love showing people, and the light bulbs go off when I do this, is I tell us a quick story, and that is I have not launched the Outlook client in my business life in probably 6 months. But I continue to check email twice a day. So I set up a rule that says, hey, if you email me, I'm going to send an automatic reply. It's a rule I have in my inbox that says, hey, I'm in Teams. It's the new strategic direction for Microsoft. And this happens for anybody internal to Microsoft that sends me an email. And it says, hey, if you want to contact me, I'm always in Teams all day long, but I check email twice a day. So I still have to check email twice a day. So I'm going to show you a couple things here. What's really popular is when you start using Teams, if you're somebody who's trying to transition away from checking email every moment and limiting your mailbox to Teams, you might want to create your own hub. And you'll see that I have Urban's hub here, right? And so Urban, if I go into the hub, you'll see that I have the general channel that is the default. And one of the things that I've been able to do is, first of all, I can pull in things like Yammer, right? And I can also pull in things like my email. So if I click on email here, watch what happens. I immediately get my full email inbox using Outlook on the web. And if you haven't used Outlook on the web in a long time, it's an amazing experience, right? So if I click on anything, I get the preview pane. I can create new content. I can delete, archive. I can right click and say, hey, ignore thread. All the context menu stuff is there. Delete, archive, mark as unread. All the things you would imagine are available there, right? And so this is the way that I check email every day, twice a day, right? In between there, I live with inside of Teams looking at my chats. So the other thing I want to show you is there's also, if you go back over here, if you looked at my team, you'd notice I had another channel called Kudos in my own personal team. So notice this is pretty popular where I get this email here from someone that says, hey, wait, I wanted to send this along, right? You absolutely crushed the presentation today. So let's say that I want to share that with my manager, right? Or I want to basically take note of it so that I can share it with him along with other great Kudos. So I'm going to say, send this to Kudos. And you'll notice it says, hey, I'm sending it to Kudos in Urban's Hub. So every channel within Microsoft Teams comes with its own email address. So when I send that, you'll see what happens here. If I go back over to, I'm going to collapse this, and I'll go back over to conversations here. You'll notice that under Kudos now, I should have that email sitting there, right? 7:57. So just moments ago, I went in and I was able to forward all the kudos that come my way throughout the day in email from my coworkers, from customers, from partners, vendors, I now can forward those types of things. And it just gives you an idea of how you can leverage the email for specific channels, which is super important. Okay, the other thing I want to cover as we have a few moments left is let's go in and I want to show you the search command again. So one of the things that you can do again is you can say like /who is and let's put in Grady. And so this is again that kind of search the who bot, right? Doesn't know who it is. So who is, so I'll say who is Grady A. So there's Grady Archie again, kind of the same thing we got this morning when we said, hey, show me somebody that has legal expertise, right? And so, you know, this search box is allows you to do a ton of other things other than just searching for people, right? You can go in and say, hey, set my activity, set myself to available, away, busy. I'd like to set myself to do not disturb. I want to go to my files tab. I want to get help. I want to look at all the app mentions, right? Where have I been app mentioned? And so it just shows me a really neat way of filtering things within Microsoft Teams. So let's see, anything else I'd want to show you? I showed you forms. Oh, the other thing is, hopefully you all know this, you're able to now invite other organizational people to your internal teams within your company if your IT organization allows you. And so what I'm going to show you here is at Microsoft, I've invited Irvin at Contoso to participate in a specific team. And so if Irvin clicks on this, he's going to be taken just to that one team that he's been invited to in this other organization so he can interact with that group of people. And so this is a huge kind of momentum that we see within customers that are doing a lot of B2B, motions with customers, partners, vendors, where they will start interacting with them and moving away again from email and putting everything kind of in that one Microsoft team where they can go in and have the different conversations that are represented by different channels within the team, and they can set up a lot of, you know, the connectors that Chris showed you, all of those things. So we appreciate your time this morning. Thank you for supporting Try This at Work. Have a great day and goodbye for now.